What's up, Hyperfast Nation? On this episode of the show, we have an 8-year real estate veteran. Just made a big change in his business, and we talked today about changes you should make in the wake of the NAR settlement. Stand by for this episode with Nick Bush. All right, welcome to the show today, Nick. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Excited to chat with you about your background in real estate, some moves you've got on the horizon, as well as what's going on in the real estate industry. All these headlines that the buyer agents are going away. So we'll dive into that.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of buyer agents that are shaking in their boots a little bit, but I'm not too afraid of the settlement, you know? So
yeah,
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens in the next 6 months, how many agents are going to be leaving the industry, and I think the cream is just going to rise to the top, you know?
Yeah, anytime there's challenges or change, there's opportunity, and the resilient people, the people that invest in their skills, the people that are in more flexible models, they tend to gain more market share. So we'll certainly get into that. Before we do, give people a bit about your background, your real estate history.
Yeah, so my name is Nick Bush. I am from Annandale, Virginia, so from the DMV area. This is my 8th year in real estate. When I first got into the business, I was working with a lot of first-time home buyers, and that was cool. I was 25 when I got in, so that was kind of naturally my sphere. I have a very sphere-based business. But last year I got certified as a divorce real estate expert, so I help people that are going through a divorce get their home sold and then buy a new one. And then I also am focusing on empty nesters, downsizers, empty nesters, and move-up buyers. I want to move into the move-up buyer lane also. So it's kind of my business. I've been at a few brokerages. I started at KW. Then I went to Tower Hill, a small boutique brokerage, back to KW, and then on to Compass. And, you know, I think I'm going to make a move. I think by the time this comes out, I'll be at EXP. So
Wow.
I'm heading over to EXP.
Shocking news. First I heard of it.
Yeah. Under, what's your group called? What's the group called again?
The Legacy Group.
Under the Legacy Group, because we all want to leave a legacy.
We do. Well, we're in. We have agents now that have joined Carrie and I in like 16 or 17 different states, and you know, a few hundred. Hopefully, we'll be 1,000 by the end of the year. Hopefully, you'll be at 100 by the end of the year.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it's definitely been fun. What was the big driver for you in making the move over to EXP?
So when I went over to Compass, you know, I sell a lot of real estate in D.C. I'm licensed in D.C., Virginia. And in D.C., Compass has this allure, right? It's almost like every brokerage is talking about Compass all the time. And so when I went over to Compass, you know, they have the technology, the branding is cool. But I realized that not capping, right? Compass is in a cap brokerage model, wouldn't make sense long term. And so EXP wasn't on my radar at all. And then Dan called me and was like, "Hey, do you mind? Would you be down to have like a 30-minute call?" And I'm like, "With Dan and Carrie, sure, of course I will." And you invited me to the mastermind, and I just realized how much value that you and Carrie provide. I mean, the Hyperfast was great. The second day team leader mastermind was great, and then you know, you guys are just providing so much value to everyone that's in the group that it's like obvious that this is the place you need to be. And then when you look at the fees, I mean, EXP has, you know, 80-20, 16K split, which is, you know, for me, like 4 or 5 transactions. I'm used to doing, you know, 20, 25 a year. Hopefully that goes way up. So the fees are great. And something I discounted or thought I wouldn't be interested in is the rev share model. And, you know, you wrap your head around it because when you hear EXP, I get like LinkedIn emails and text messages randomly and Facebook messages. You feel like, okay, EXP is just a recruiting company. But then you realize, wait, like every brokerage recruits, right? Like even Keller Williams is their main, like every brokerage has their thing, right? Keller Williams is we have the highest agent count just because they're recruiting all the time. But you only get profit share at Keller Williams, and at EXP you get revenue share. And so I just think that the opportunity to sell real estate at a high level and have a second income for either building my team out organically or attracting other agents is just as like logical, right, long term.
Yeah, it's interesting how some people think it's just a recruiting company. And you look at revenue share, revenue share requires revenue. So if EXP agents weren't selling, there'd be no revenue to share. And I think last year Mike Del Preti put out some stats, and EXP was like number 2 in transactions per agent. So they clearly are selling at a high level. And there's all these 100, 200, 400, $500 million teams that are moving over there. So it's definitely a place where there's high producers. And then on the flip side, on rev share, I think 20% or less of EXP agents actually get revenue share.
Yeah, so everyone's not recruiting anyway.
No. A lot of people just... It is one of the best parts about the company, but a lot of people don't do it or want to do it. However, I always tell people the revenue share model actually helps the people that aren't recruiting a ton. Because, you belong to a brick and mortar or a franchise model. You maybe have like 1 or 2 people in your office, typically like an office manager, broker that will help you. In this model, we have the EXP brokers in the cloud to take care of your transactional questions, but you have 7 people in your upline, your sponsor and the 6 people above them that benefit when you sell more homes. So now, instead of just relying on learning from one person, you've got 7 people that each bring different experiences and skill sets to the table. Like, and our group, like, you get to learn from Carrie Shull, you get to learn from myself, Tim and Julie Harris, Gene Frederick, Elizabeth Riley, all these people in different states and parts of the country that have operated under different models and bring different skill sets and can teach different things. So.
And also, like, it's a benefit, I think. If you look at it like this is maybe everyone doesn't see it like this, but it's almost beneficial if the person above you is making money when you make money, because everybody wants to make money, right? We sell real estate to like help people and all the great things, but we're also selling real estate to like make money, ball out, buy nice houses. I have a Range Rover, buy nice cars, right? Like, I want a Porsche. Just letting you say. But also, like, if I'm incentivized, if I recruit someone over and I'm incentivized to help them grow because I'll make money if they make more money, then I think there's like I guess I'm trying to say there's a chance for everyone to help each other. There's a financial benefit for everyone to help each other grow. And I think that, like, when you kind of think about it like that and realize that, you realize like how much value you can extract from everyone else and like why they want to give you value in the first place.
How do you think the EXP model compared to others will do with the buyer agent changes that are potentially coming our way?
I'd actually like to hear your thoughts, and I'll piggyback.
Yeah, well, I think one thing's for sure. You mentioned part of the driver for you moving over is the lower caps and fees. I think anytime we get in a situation where fees are compressed, potentially, and I'm not saying it'll happen, but for some it might. I think paying your broker less is gonna mean more. So I think that's a plus for our model. I think the agents that develop really good skills at presenting value, negotiating their commissions, they're going to do better off. And I think in a model where you have 7 upline partners, you're going to do better. And then I think if in any situation where there's a potential decrease in the commission pool, if you're in a model that allows you to build up revenue share, stock awards, right, that's an advantage. So I see a lot of advantages overall at the agent level and at the company level because, EXP's model relies on a higher percentage of variable cost rather than fixed costs. The brick and mortar model, the franchise model, it's very, very hard to change costs.
Yeah, I think if you think about last year and how tough it was, kind of like normal market, COVID market was insane, and then last year kind of slowed down a lot for a lot of people, including myself. And everyone kind of had to pivot their business, and I think that if there was revenue share there, it'd have been way more comfortable because revenue share, it not only does it give you extra like passive income to live day-to-day life, like that's money you can invest back into your business, right? So it's an automatic investment back into the business, and all you have to do is attract agents to get it. And then I think you also said EXP was like number 2 in what, volume or
They were number one in transaction count, number two in transaction count per agent.
Okay, so that means that not only is the brokerage doing a lot of deals, the agents at the brokerage are doing a lot of deals. And we're going to need to mastermind on this constantly, right? I need to know Dan's scripts. I need to know Dan P's scripts. They need to know my scripts. How are we all handling this objection? How is everyone, taking this information and delivering it to the sellers and getting buyers to pay commission? So I think when you're around, when you're at a company where the agents are number 2 in the country on transaction count and volume, and transaction by agent, you're going to have a lot of opportunity to get information to go out into the market and position yourself as the expert. Because the agents that are not experts right now or don't invest in learning, right, and growing, and script practice and figuring out where they can pivot their business to when times are down, are gonna wash out.
Well, it was nice too. I know this will be it'll go out later, right? We're recording a couple weeks in advance probably, but yesterday the EXP leadership team got on YouTube and had an hour-long live stream about the settlement, commission changes, what you should be doing now to get ready, and they had 50,000 people on. And like Leo sent me the numbers on that, and I was like, that's like a college football stadium that was watching.
And the reason that matters to me is that there's 50,000 people that are like, hey, I'm here to learn what to say.
Yeah,
they're not just blowing it off, right? They're like, wait, no, like we need the information. So
they don't have it was a YouTube live stream, so they don't have the data on who was on necessarily, but I think they could kind of back end calculate from like the comments and whatnot.
Yeah.
It was probably close to half that were not EXP agents too.
Oh, interesting.
So it was, really cool to see them leading not just the company but really the industry through this change. I know agents listen to this, so kind of my script for buyers and sellers, like, it's really unfortunate that almost the industry isn't one, because I don't know what the listing agreement says in Missouri, right? But in Virginia, it actually never mentions the seller. There's no mention of the seller paying the buyer agent commission. What it actually says is like the seller's going to pay the broker a commission, and then the broker's going to co-op or share a percentage of that commission with the other agents. So like me as not a lawyer, right, thinking about it, I'm like, how did this language not protect us, right? And I'm kind of explaining that to sellers, like, hey, look, like you're actually not paying the buyer's agent, you're paying me, and I'm choosing to share part of my commission with the buyer's agent because honestly, like the chances of your buyer walking into the open house is very slim, right? Your buyer is already working with a real estate agent, they're pre-approved, they're ready to go. So I'm going to be reaching out to agents like when we list this house as well as just the general market. And so almost saying like, hey, I'm advertising to agents is like kind of how I guess. It's interesting.
I don't want to use the word spin, but
Well, and so the seller's still allowed to pay the buyer, or the buyer's commission can still get paid by the seller.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you just can't advertise it in the MLS.
Yeah, exactly.
So now can we put it in other online marketing? Can we put it on our flyers? Can we have a those number balloons? Can we have like a free number balloon when they walk in the house?
Outside of the open house, just like 3% here, yeah. Yeah, I think you could put it everywhere. Like you put it in the doc segment. So it's really, and that's the thing. Like that lawsuit. I mean, the settlement that happened most recently was literally about like where you can put the commission.
Yeah, I think what probably caused it is
middle of America not knowing what to do.
I think a lot of agents worked with buyers without getting the buyer broker agreement signed.
Yeah.
We on the Kerry Scholl team have, for as long as I can remember, so 10 years, our policy is get the buyer to sign the agreement up front, the buyer broker agreement, list your compensation.
Yeah.
It says it, and it actually says that, will be, the buyer agent shall be paid this by the buyer. However, if it's paid, if the seller or seller's agent's offering a co-op, that'll be deducted.
Yeah.
And then it also says in there, if the seller offers more, right? So if you wrote 2% in there, but the seller offered 3%, you're allowed to take the extra.
Okay,
right?
That's great.
That's going away though. So now under the new new thing, that agreement is going to say, if it says 2%, the seller's offering 3%, you have to go back and renegotiate with your buyer
to get that extra.
Right. So I think for the people that all along were presenting value to the buyer and getting the agreement signed up front and properly explaining it, I think for them it's going to be less of a change. There's obviously still some procedural changes in how you find out what your commission is, and you might have to negotiate with it as part of the offer or negotiate with the listing agent, right? Because there's no longer going to be this like blanket unilateral offer that's put out in the MLS. So, but I do think part of what led to this was agents not explaining upfront to their clients, both on the buy side and the sell side. And
this is also the power of the buyer presentation, because you get to show value in the buyer presentation, and you get to explain, hey, this is the commission situation, boom, and here's why here's all the value after I say that to you. And so I think it just gets the part-time agent or the agent that's doing 2 or 3 deals a year. I think they end up out of the business, and the cream will rise to the top.
Maybe, certainly if they don't upgrade their skills, that could be an issue. What changes, if any, are you going to make in your business, either your approach with buyers, or are you going to get more seller focused?
So I'm definitely getting more seller focused. So I'd love to be on $1 million listing and sell, $10 million houses. Maybe I'll get there one day, right? But I always I've looked at it like, okay, if I'm not selling $1 million houses, how do I get to $1 million with each person? And I was very buyer heavy because that was just my sphere, right? And then I realized I'm kind of boxed into my sphere. And so I got the certified divorce real estate certification because I was like, okay, that's a list side deal. I just decided that people that are getting divorced are going to be selling a $700,000 or $800,000 house, right? And then there's an opportunity for 2 buy side deals, right? And I really do care about people, but this is from a business model standpoint, right? And then I want to work with empty nesters because we know all the baby boomers are starting to retire right now, and inventory is low. So if you think about it, right, even if you think about being a buyer's agent, in no other business, right, do you not want to control the product? And for us, the product is the houses. So if I can tap into that empty nester, retiree baby boomer market, I get a list side deal. The market needs the listing, and so I have a lot of leverage, and then I can help that person buy, and then that buyer is also probably has more cash. They know exactly what they want, so it's an easier buyer side deal. And then the third kind of group is going to be move up buyers. So for me and my wife and I have 3 kids, and we're actually in the process of getting our house ready for the market because we realize we don't have enough space, right? So I want to get the seller who needs to move or feels like they're I don't have enough space, I need my bigger house, and so that's a list side and a buy side deal too. So I'm always trying to figure out how to get 2 in 1, and our average price point here is $600,000. So I should probably get to $1 million, $1.2 million each time. And then since I'm growing out my team, then I always have open houses for them to do and buy side deals for them to work.
What are your goals for your team, sales production?
So this year I want to do 52 deals. I'm starting off slow, but I'm gonna pick it up. So my goal this year is 52 deals, $20 million. And for the team, I think I'm bringing on an agent in a couple weeks, maybe May. And I think I just want to get them to one deal a year. So I guess short term.
1 deal a year?
1 deal a month. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're going to be eating ramen noodles and living in your basement.
I think the short term focus, I would say, in the next couple years, is to get to 100 deals a year.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of where everyone wants to be. 100 deals a year. Then I'll start focusing on 100 million in sales volume. But I want to be one of the big fish out here, also.
Awesome. Well, it's been amazing having you on. I always like to end with a hyper-fast round of questions.
Okay.
If you're ready.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Biggest piece of advice to a new real estate agent?
That's a good question. I would say the biggest piece of advice I have 2 pieces of advice. One, treat this like a job. This is not hey, I have so much time. I get to see houses. Cool, right? Treat this like a job. Calendar block, prospect. Your job is to go on appointments, to be prospecting potential buyers and sellers, and then setting appointments. If you don't have appointments on your calendar, you have no business. The second piece of advice I have is when you get into the office, figure out like who the good teams are, right? Where you would fit, because I've never been on a team, but if I could go back in time, I would figure out like what team I could join for the mentorship, for the leads, for just like understanding the business and knowing what to do. So I think, prospect, get going appointments, and join a team if you're just starting out.
What's the most common mistake you see agents make?
Not answering their phone or text messages. We got to communicate, guys. Your seller wants you to pick up the phone, dude. So.
What's the biggest challenge you've ever had in real estate?
Not Michael Jordan, this thing. I think the biggest challenge I've had so far is getting on the list side,
Yeah.
I was like 90-10, maybe like 95-5 at a certain point, buy side deals. And that was for 6 years, right? And then last year I was 60-40 on the list side. And right now I think I'm bringing 4 listings on the market in the next, the 4 total in the next couple months. And so I think getting on the list side has been the hardest thing to figure out. Because it's harder for me. It's easier to have a buyer conversation than a seller conversation with a stranger anywhere. The buyers kind of reveal themselves more than sellers reveal themselves, so you really have to prospect and have systems to get listings. But that's been my biggest hurdle.
All right, if you had to start all over and you couldn't take your name, your reputation, your list of clients, marketing dollars, couldn't take anything, how would you go out and get business?
So the first thing I do is I join a team, and I join a team or brokerage that offers me the ability to do a ton of open houses. So that's one thing I would do. I would then go and like network crazy with every real estate agent, right? I just know every agent in the town, every business professional in the town, and then I'd obviously make calls, but I would also kind of become the mayor of the town. So I would hit up all the small business owners, and I would just do feature videos, right? Feature videos, because then I can use social media, so I can already look like I've been there, right? Like I'll feel comfortable. Some of it is about like feeling like you belong there, right? And I know all the agents. I'd be doing open houses all the time, so I'm meeting buyers, right? And then I would know all of the business owners, so I would just build relationships that way. And that's all buyer side activity stuff. I would also, make a ton of calls a day, like 100 a day.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the show. Before we sign off, if people want to connect with you about buying or selling a house, or if agents want to talk to you about what it's like at eXp Realty, how should people connect with you?
So the easiest thing is you can find me on Instagram, Nick Bush the Realtor, and then I also have a podcast called Real Estate Explained. That's on Apple, Google Play, everywhere, Spotify, so check that out.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the show today, Nick, and to all of our listeners and viewers. Thank you for tuning in. Please share this episode with other real estate agents or people you think would find value, and we'll see you next time.